The stars trembled as the greatest fleet in galactic history assembled in the darkness of space. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching thousands of alien warships take their positions. The Zephyrian fleet stretched beyond the horizon, their sleek vessels gleaming like silver daggers against the void. Each ship carried enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Behind them, the bioships of the Hive writhed through space like living creatures. General Vex commanded hundreds of thousands of these organic vessels, their hulls pulsing with alien life. They could heal from damage, adapt to any weapon, and multiply during battle. The sight of them made even veteran soldiers feel sick. The Dominion's contribution made the other fleets look small. Their massive dreadnoughts moved like floating cities, each one capable of destroying entire planets. The reptilian warriors aboard these ships had conquered half the galaxy through pure force. They knew only war and victory. Most terrifying of all were the ships of the Crystalline Collective. These vessels seemed to bend reality around them, phasing in and out of normal space. Their technology was so advanced that other species could barely understand how it worked. They could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. Captain Dae-ho Kim adjusted his position in the command chair of the human exploration ship New Seoul. His small vessel drifted at the edge of sensor range, hidden behind a dead asteroid. The ship's stealth systems kept them invisible, but Dae-ho knew they were walking on thin ice. "Captain, we're picking up their command frequencies," reported Lieutenant So-young Choi from the communications station. Her fingers danced across the controls as she filtered through thousands of alien transmissions. "They're not even trying to hide their plans." Dae-ho nodded grimly. The aliens were so confident in their victory that they didn't care who might be listening. Through the crackling static, he could hear Admiral Kale's voice coordinating the massive fleet. The Zephyrian commander spoke of humanity like they were insects to be crushed. "Humans took 3 standard months to capture 1 mining station," Kale's voice echoed through the bridge speakers. "Their plasma cannons can barely scratch our paint. This will not be a battle. This will be an extermination." The other alien commanders agreed with harsh laughter. General Vex's chittering voice described how human nuclear weapons had failed against Hive bioarmor. The Dominion's field marshal spoke of human ships fleeing from single Dominion scouts. The Collective's mind speaker mentioned how primitive human technology seemed compared to their reality-bending abilities. Dae-ho felt his jaw clench. These aliens remembered humanity from 5 years ago, when Earth's forces were still using conventional weapons and basic shield technology. They had no idea how much had changed since then. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," Dae-ho ordered. "Maximum encryption." The transmission took several minutes to establish. When Admiral Bo-Ra Lee's face appeared on the main screen, her expression was stone cold. Behind her, Dae-ho could see the organized chaos of Earth's primary military command. "Center." "Report, Captain Kim," Admiral Lee said without preamble. "They're all here, Admiral. Every major fleet in the galaxy. We're looking at over 200,000 ships, maybe more. The asteroid field is completely surrounded." Admiral Lee's tactical officer, Commander Hyun-woo Park, leaned into view. "Numbers, Captain. 50,000 Zephyrian vessels minimum. The Hive brought everything that can fly. I count at least 30 Dominion planet killers, and the Collective has maybe 500 of their phase ships." The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Even Admiral Lee, known for her iron composure, seemed shaken by the scale of the enemy force. "They're planning a demonstration," Dae-ho continued. "Admiral Kale wants to broadcast the destruction of our fleet to every human colony. He thinks it will break our spirit." Commander Park laughed bitterly. "Break our spirit? They have no idea what human spirit really means." Admiral Lee raised her hand for silence. "Captain Kim, maintain your position and keep monitoring. Do not engage under any circumstances. We need you to record everything that's about to happen." "Understood, Admiral. But what about our people in the asteroid field? Commander Song's fleet is sitting right in the middle of all this." "Commander, Song knows her mission," Admiral Lee replied. "Trust in the plan, Captain." The transmission ended, leaving Dae-ho alone with his doubts. Somewhere in the asteroid field, Fleet Commander Ga-young Song waited with only 12 human ships against the largest armada in galactic history. It looked like suicide, but Daeho had learned to trust Earth Command's strategies, no matter how impossible they seemed. Meanwhile, far from the gathering storm, Dr. Jin Sunam made final adjustments to equipment that most humans couldn't even pronounce, let alone understand. The secret research station Haven orbited a star that didn't exist on any public charts. For 3 years, Nam and his team had worked on Project Hammer in complete secrecy. Quantum field generators are stable, reported Dr. Yoonji Yoon from her console. The young physicist had spent the last 18 months perfecting the exotic matter containment systems. All safety protocols are green. Chief Engineer Taemin Ko wiped sweat from his forehead as he emerged from the power core chamber. The fusion reactors are running at optimal efficiency. We're ready for full-scale testing. Dr. Nam nodded slowly. Project Hammer wasn't just another weapon system. It was humanity's answer to a galaxy that saw them as inferior. The alien races had centuries of technological advancement, vast fleets, and weapons that could reshape matter itself. But they had never encountered human ingenuity driven by desperate necessity. Sir, we're receiving the activation codes from Earth Command, announced Communications Officer Mi Young-han. All departments report ready for deployment. Nam looked around at his team. These brilliant men and women had sacrificed everything to make this moment possible. They had worked 18-hour days, missed birthdays and holidays, and pushed the boundaries of known science to create something the galaxy had never seen. Ladies and gentlemen, Nam said quietly, today we change the balance of power in this galaxy. Today we show them that humanity doesn't just adapt to the universe, we reshape it. Back in the asteroid field, the alien armadas completed their formations. Admiral Kale's flagship took position at the center of the massive fleet, its weapons trained on the small cluster of human ships hiding among the rocks. Human vessels! Kale's voice boomed across all frequencies. You are surrounded and outnumbered 10,000 to 1. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make your extinction a lesson that echoes across the galaxy for 1,000 years. Commander Ga Young-song sat calmly on the bridge of her battlecruiser Incheon. Around her, the crew went about their duties with professional efficiency. They knew they were probably going to die, but they also knew their sacrifice would serve a greater purpose. Admiral Kale, Song replied over the open channel. Humanity has a message for the galaxy. She transmitted a simple set of coordinates that meant nothing to the alien fleet commanders. But on distant Earth, those coordinates triggered a cascade of events that would change the galaxy forever. In his hidden observation post, Captain Daeho Kim watched the alien fleet prepare for what they thought would be an easy slaughter. The massive ships powered their weapons, their commanders confident in their overwhelming advantage. They had no idea that humanity had stopped playing by the old rules. They were about to learn that humans didn't just build better weapons, they built impossible ones. The coordinates hung in space like a promise of things to come. Somewhere in the quantum foam between dimensions, something vast and terrible began to stir. The age of human dominance was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The storm had gathered. Now came the lightning. The alien commanders felt like gods as they looked down at the tiny human fleet trapped in the asteroid field. Admiral Kyle's bridge crew laughed openly as they counted the enemy ships. 12 vessels against 200,000 seemed like a joke rather than a battle. Look at them hiding behind rocks like frightened children, sneered General Vex, his insectoid features twisted in amusement. The mighty human fleet! I have single bio ships larger than their entire force. The Dominion's field marshals studied the tactical display with cold reptilian eyes. Their largest ship barely qualifies as a heavy cruiser by our standards. Our scout vessels carry more firepower than their flagship. Even the usually silent collective's mind speaker seemed amused. Their technology reads as primitive electromagnetic discharge weapons and basic fusion drives. How did such a backward species even achieve faster-than-light travel? Admiral Kale pulled up his personal files on human military encounters. The records painted a picture of a stubborn but ultimately inferior race. 3 months to take a single asteroid mining station, plasma weapons that barely scratched alien armor, nuclear warheads that failed against even basic shielding systems. Remember the Battle of Kepler Station, Kale announced to his bridge crew. 20 human ships against one of our light cruisers. The humans lost 16 vessels before retreating. Today we face 12 ships with a combined might of 4 galactic powers. His tactical officer brought up deployment patterns on the main screen. Sir, shall we surround them in the standard formation? With our numbers, they have no possible escape route. No, Kyle decided after a moment. Let them see their doom approaching. Form a wall of ships facing their position. I want every human in that fleet to understand the futility of resistance before we destroy them. The massive alien armada began to move. Thousands of ships repositioned themselves into a vast semicircle around the asteroid field. The formation stretched across hundreds of kilometers. A solid wall of firepower pointed at the humans. Commander Gay Young Song watched the alien deployment from her command chair aboard the battlecruiser Incheon. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Dongmin Yu, whistled softly as he counted enemy vessels. Ma'am, our computer stopped counting at 150,000. There are more ships out there than our sensors can track accurately. Song nodded calmly. Any word from Earth Command? Standing by for final authorization codes, replied Communications Officer Junho Bei. All departments report ready for observation duties. The crew of the Incheon knew their real mission. They weren't here to fight this impossible battle. They were here to witness it and make sure every second was recorded for history. Their ship's advanced sensor arrays were already transmitting everything back to Earth Command in real time. Admiral Kale opened a channel to all ships in the alien fleet. His voice carried the confidence of absolute victory. All vessels prepare. For demonstration bombardment. We will destroy the human fleet one ship at a time. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who oppose the natural order. The alien weapons began to charge. Energy readings spiked across the electromagnetic spectrum as thousands of ship-mounted cannons prepared to fire. Bioships grew new weapon organs in real time. Reality warping devices started to bend space around their target coordinates. Captain Dae-ho Kim watched from his hidden position, his hands gripping the armrests of his command chair. The new Soul's sensors recorded every detail of the alien fleet's preparation. He could see weapon systems that could vaporize planets, biotechnology that could adapt to any defense, and crystalline ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Captain, whispered Lieutenant So-Young Choi, shouldn't we try to help them? We can't just watch Commander Song's people die. Dae-ho's jaw was tight with tension. Our orders are clear. Observe and record. There's something bigger happening here than we can see. On Luna Base, hidden beneath the moon's surface, technical specialist Woojin Seo monitored quantum field fluctuations throughout the solar system. His instruments showed readings that should have been impossible. Space itself seemed to be vibrating, with barely contained energy. Dr. Han, you need to see this, Seo called to his supervisor. The quantum foam is showing massive disturbances. It's like something huge is trying to push through from somewhere else. Dr. Mi-Young-han studied the readouts with growing excitement. These readings match the theoretical models from Project Hammer. The exotic matter generators are working perfectly. In the asteroid field, Admiral Kale decided he had waited long enough. The human fleet sat motionless among the rocks, making no attempt to flee or fight. Their passive acceptance of doom almost disappointed him. Human Commander, Kale transmitted to Song's ship. Your silence speaks of cowardice. Will you not even beg for your lives? Commander Song's response came back clear and steady. Admiral Kyle, we have nothing to say to you, but we do have a message for the galaxy. She transmitted the same coordinates that Dae-ho Kim had sent hours earlier. To the alien commanders, the numbers meant nothing, but somewhere in hidden facilities across human space, those coordinates triggered the final phase of humanity's greatest secret. Your pathetic human mathematics will not save you, Kale replied. All ships, begin bombardment sequence. Show these primitives the price of defiance. The alien fleet opened fire with a small fraction of their weapons. Even this limited attack carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic particles streaked toward the human ships. At the last second, the human vessels raised their shields. The defensive barriers flared to life, absorbing the incoming fire with surprising effectiveness. The alien weapons struck the shields and scattered harmlessly into space. General Vex chittered in surprise. Their shields are stronger than expected. How did primitive humans develop such defensive technology? No matter, Admiral Kale growled. That was merely a test. All ships, Prepare full bombardment. Use everything. But as the alien fleet charged, their weapons for a devastating attack, space itself began to change around them. Sensors throughout the Armada started screaming warnings about massive energy buildups, but the readings made no sense to alien science. On the bridge of the Incheon, Commander Song smiled for the first time since the battle began. Communications. Send the final authorization to Earth Command. Tell them the show is about to begin. Light years away, Dr. Jin Sunam received the message in his secret laboratory. He looked around at his team of brilliant scientists and engineers, then placed his hand on the activation console. Project Hammer is authorized for deployment, Nam announced. Initialize quantum fold generators. Prepare for dimensional transit. The hidden research station Haven began to glow with energies that existed outside normal space-time. Exotic matter flowed through conduits that bent the laws of physics. Somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, something vast and impossible, prepared to enter the normal universe. Admiral Kale watched his weapons finish charging, confident that the next bombardment would end this farce. He had no idea that humanity had stopped playing by galactic rules years ago. The aliens were about to learn that humans didn't just adapt to superior technology, they transcended it. All ships, open fire, Kale commanded. Erase these humans from existence. The largest fleet in galactic history unleashed its full fury at 12 small human ships. But as the weapons fired, the coordinates that Commander Song had transmitted finally activated something that would change the galaxy forever. Reality itself began to tear open above the battlefield. The age of human dominance was about to begin in the most spectacular way possible. Space screamed. The fabric of reality split open like a wound in the universe itself. Where there had been empty void, now there was something impossible. Light bent in directions that shouldn't exist. Colors that had no names painted themselves across the darkness. The laws of physics seemed to break down and rebuild themselves moment by moment. Admiral Kale stumbled on his bridge as gravity itself seemed confused about which way was down. Emergency alarms wailed throughout his flagship, as sensors tried desperately to understand what they were detecting. Numbers flashed across displays that made no sense to any known science. "What is happening?" Kale demanded, his voice cracking with the first hint of fear he had felt in decades. His science officer, a brilliant Zephyrian who had studied the mysteries of the universe for over a century, stared at his instruments in complete bewilderment. "Sir, I cannot explain these readings. Space-time itself appears to be folding. Something is coming through from somewhere that should not exist." General, Vex's bioships reacted on pure instinct, their living hulls trying to adapt to threats they couldn't understand. The organic vessels twisted and writhed as their nervous systems were overwhelmed by sensory input that evolution had never prepared them for. The Dominion's massive dreadnoughts, built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them, groaned and shuddered as reality waves washed over their hulls. Field Marshal Korath's reptilian features went pale as his ship's computer systems began reporting impossible data. "Our instruments are detecting an object that exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously," his tactical officer reported in a shaking voice. "The mass readings keep changing. Sometimes it shows as smaller than a fighter craft, sometimes larger than a moon." The Crystalline Collective's phase ships, masters of dimensional technology, suddenly found themselves as confused as children. Their reality-warping abilities meant nothing when reality itself refused to cooperate. The Mind Speaker's consciousness recoiled from contact with whatever was emerging from the quantum storm, and then it appeared. The Hammer of Sol slipped into normal space like a knife through silk. The ship defied every principle of known engineering. Its hull seemed to be made of crystallized starlight, smooth and flowing like liquid metal but harder than any substance in the galaxy. The vessel was beautiful and terrible at the same time, elegant curves hiding unimaginable power. Captain Jun Seo-yu stood on the bridge of this impossible ship, his hands clasped behind his back as he studied the massive alien fleet spread out before them. His crew moved with quiet efficiency around him, each one a specialist in technologies that most of the galaxy couldn't even imagine. "First Officer Park, report," Yu said calmly. Hyejin Park consulted her displays, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of what they faced. Sir, we have 237,000 enemy vessels in our immediate vicinity. They appear to be in standard combat formation, weapons charged and targeting our position. Weapons Officer Lee, what is our status? Dong Hyun Lee's fingers danced across controls that existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum dimensions. All exotic matter conduits are at full power, Captain. Quantum cascade generators are online. Temporal displacement field is ready for activation. Navigator Kim, confirm our position. Ye-Won Kim studied readings that showed their location in 17 different versions of reality simultaneously. We are exactly where we need to be, sir. The target fleet is arranged perfectly for demonstration purposes. The alien fleets had stopped their attack on the human ships in the asteroid field. Every commander in the massive armada was staring at the impossible vessel that had just appeared in their midst. Their weapons, charged and ready to fire, seemed suddenly inadequate. Admiral Kale was the first to recover from his shock. All ships, target the unknown vessel. Whatever it is, we have them outnumbered 200,000 to 1. Captain Jun Seo-yu smiled at this pronouncement. The Hammer of Sol's communications officer, Subin Cho, had been monitoring alien transmissions since their arrival. Should I respond to their challenge, Captain? Subin asked. Not yet, Yu replied. Let them make the first move. We want the galaxy to see exactly what happens when primitive thinking meets advanced science. The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. Planet-killer beams that could crack worlds in half converged on the human ship. Bioweapons that could adapt to any defense swarmed toward their target. Reality-warping missiles that existed outside normal space-time streaked through dimensions toward the impossible vessel. The attack was devastating enough to destroy entire star systems. The combined firepower of 4 galactic civilizations focused on a single target should have erased it from existence instantly. The weapons passed through the Hammer of Sol like it wasn't there. Energy beams that could melt moons simply continued. Past the ship without touching it. Bioweapons designed to consume any material found nothing to attack. Reality-warping devices couldn't find their target because it existed in dimensions they couldn't reach. Impossible, whispered Admiral Kale, his face gone white with shock. Captain Yu turned to his weapons officer. Mr. Lee, I believe it's time for our demonstration. Begin with something simple. Dong-Hyun Lee nodded and activated one of the Hammer of Sol's basic weapon systems. Targeting the Zephyrian flagship with a focused quantum cascade, sir. The weapon that fired from the human ship didn't look like much. A brief shimmer in space, a subtle distortion in the light around Admiral Kale's massive dreadnought. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Zephyrian flagship began to glow. The massive vessel, 30 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to level continents, started to shine with an inner light. The glow grew brighter and brighter until it became too brilliant to look at directly. "What are they doing to us?" Kale screamed into his communications system. His science officer had no answer. The ship's hull wasn't melting or exploding. Instead, the very atoms that made up the vessel were being convinced to exist somewhere else. The quantum bonds that held matter together were simply disconnected. In less than 10 seconds, Admiral Kale's flagship ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, simply removed from reality. The massive dreadnought became a cloud of harmless energy that dispersed into the cosmic background radiation. 236,999 alien ships remained. Every commander in the fleet stared in horror at the empty space where their supreme leader had been moments before. General Vex was the first to break the stunned silence. How is this possible? What kind of weapon simply deletes matter from existence? The answer came from Captain Jun Seo-yu himself, his voice calm and clear across all communication frequencies. You asked humanity to surrender because you thought we were weak. You believed our technology was primitive because you only saw what we wanted you to see. For 5 years, we let you think you were superior while we developed capabilities you cannot comprehend. First Officer Hya-Jin Park activated another system. Captain, the Hive fleet is attempting to adapt their bioships to our quantum signatures. Show them why adaptation has limits, Yu replied. The Hammer of Sol's temporal displacement field activated. Time itself became a weapon as the human ship created a localized bubble where the flow of time could be controlled. Suddenly, thousands of Hive bioships found themselves aging millions of years in seconds. The living vessels designed to adapt and evolve instead withered and died as time itself was turned against them. Their bio-armor cracked and crumbled. Their organic weapons decayed into dust. In less than a minute, the entire Hive fleet had aged into cosmic debris. General Vex's final transmission was a single word: impossible. Navigator Ye-Wan Kim reported new enemy movement. The Dominion dreadnoughts are charging their planet-killer weapons, sir. They're attempting to create a gravitational singularity to destroy us. Captain Yu nodded approvingly. Excellent. Use their own weapons against them. Show the galaxy what happens when you try to bend space-time around something that exists in quantum superposition. The Hammer of Sol activated its quantum mirrors, devices that could redirect energy through folded space. When the Dominion's reality-warping weapons fired, creating artificial black holes and gravitational anomalies, the human ship simply redirected these attacks back at their sources. The massive Dominion dreadnoughts found themselves pulled into the very singularities they had created. Their screams of protest lasted only seconds before they were crushed out of existence by their own weapons. Only the Crystalline Collective remained, their phase ships desperately trying to escape into alternate dimensions. The Mind Speakers. Consciousness reached out to Captain Yu, attempting to communicate directly from mind to mind. "What are you?" the alien consciousness whispered in terror. Captain Junseo Yu smiled as his ship prepared to demonstrate that humanity had mastered not just their own dimension but all possible dimensions. "We are what you forced us to become," he replied. "We are human." Captain Junseo Yu looked at the chronometer on his command console. The demonstration had been going on for 3 minutes and 45 seconds. In 15 more seconds, the largest military force in galactic history would be nothing but scattered atoms and fading energy signatures. "All stations, prepare for final phase," he announced calmly. The Crystalline Collective's phase ships were humanity's last targets and arguably the most dangerous. These vessels could slip between dimensions, existing in multiple realities at once. Their technology was so advanced that other species considered it indistinguishable from magic. The Mind Speaker's consciousness pressed against Captain Yu's mind, desperate to understand what was happening. "Your species was catalogued as barely space-worthy. Your weapons were primitive electromagnetic discharge. How do you possess technologies that transcend dimensional barriers?" Navigator Ye-Wan Kim answered by activating the Hammer of Sol's most sophisticated system. "Captain, quantum fold generators are now tracking targets across 17 parallel realities. The collective ships cannot hide from us." The alien phase ships tried everything in their considerable arsenal. They shifted through dimensions that existed outside normal space-time. They created reality bubbles where the laws of physics worked differently. They even attempted to phase shift into timelines where the human ship didn't exist. None of it mattered. The Hammer of Sol followed them effortlessly, its exotic matter hull existing in all possible dimensions simultaneously. When the collective ships tried to hide in alternate realities, the human vessel was already there waiting. When they attempted to escape into parallel timelines, they found the impossible human ship blocking every exit. "How?" The Mind Speaker's thoughts screamed across the dimensional barriers. "How can one vessel exist everywhere at once?" Weapons Officer Dong Hyun Lee provided the answer with another demonstration. His exotic matter weapons fired across dimensional boundaries, targeting the collective ships in whatever reality they tried to hide in. The weapons didn't travel through space or time. They simply appeared wherever they needed to be. The Crystalline Collective's greatest advantage had always been their ability to retreat into dimensions where their enemies couldn't follow. For the first time in their species' history, they faced an opponent who could pursue them anywhere they went. "Final target acquired," Lee announced. "One collective mind ship remaining, currently phased across 11 dimensions simultaneously." "Eliminate it," Captain Yu ordered. The last alien vessel vanished in a cascade of broken dimensions. The Mind Speaker's consciousness scattered across the quantum foam, its final thought a desperate warning that would never reach its home world. 4 minutes. The greatest armada in galactic history had lasted exactly 4 minutes against a single human vessel. Captain Dae-Ho Kim sat in stunned silence aboard his hidden observation ship. His sensors had recorded everything, but his mind could barely process what he had witnessed. The new Soul's computer systems were still trying to analyze the impossible readings from the human warship. "Captain," Lieutenant So Young Choi said, in a whisper, "are we looking at the same humanity that could barely fight off a single alien patrol 5 years ago?" Daeho shook his head slowly. "No, we're looking at what humanity became when we stopped playing by their rules." In the asteroid field, Commander Gae Young Song and her small fleet watched the aftermath of the demonstration. Where hundreds of thousands of alien warships had threatened to destroy them, now there was only empty space and fading energy signatures. "All ships, this is Commander Song," she broadcast to her fleet. "Mission accomplished. Begin recovery operations. For any surviving alien crew members." Her communications officer looked puzzled. "Ma'am? Our sensors aren't detecting any life signs. The alien ships weren't just destroyed, they were removed." Song nodded grimly. She had been briefed on Project Hammer's capabilities, but seeing them in action was something else entirely. The weapon systems aboard the Hammer of Sol didn't just destroy targets. They edited them out of existence, removing them from reality, as if they had never been there at all. Aboard the impossible human warship, Captain Jun Seo-yu turned to address his crew. These men and women had trained for 3 years to operate technologies that most humans couldn't even understand. They had given up normal lives to become the operators of humanity's ultimate weapon. "Excellent work, everyone," Yu said. "Communications Officer Cho, prepare to broadcast humanity's message to the galaxy." Subin Cho activated transmission systems that could punch through any shield or jamming field in known space. The message would reach every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in the galaxy within hours. Captain Yu's image appeared on screens across countless worlds. His voice was calm and measured, but carried an authority that made listeners stop whatever they were doing to pay attention. "People of the galaxy," he began, "today you witness the end of an era. For too long, humanity has been seen as a primitive species, barely worthy of notice. Your leaders believed they could exterminate us whenever convenient. On distant worlds, alien civilians watched in shock as their leaders' greatest fleets simply ceased to exist. The footage from the battle showed technologies beyond their comprehension, weapons that treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions. We did not want this war," Yu continued. "Humanity sought peaceful coexistence with all species. We offered friendship and cooperation. Your leaders chose aggression and attempted genocide instead. Back on Earth, Admiral Bo-Ra Lee monitored galactic communications from the primary command center. Alien worlds were in chaos. Some species were calling for immediate surrender, others for desperate alliances, and a few for suicide attacks against human targets. "Admiral," reported Commander Hyun-woo Park, "we're receiving thousands of transmission from alien governments. Most are requesting immediate ceasefire agreements." Admiral Lee studied the tactical displays showing human forces throughout the galaxy. Every human colony that had been under threat was now safe. The alien fleets that had been preparing to attack human settlements were fleeing back to their homeworlds in panic. "Prepare diplomatic response protocols," Lee ordered, "but make it clear that any further aggression against human civilians will result in immediate retaliation." On Luna Base, Dr. Mi Young-han and technical specialist Woo Jin Seo monitored the deisted Hammer of Sol's quantum signature. The ship had returned to its folded space pocket, existing between dimensions where it could observe the galaxy without being detected. "The exotic matter generators are stable," Han reported. "The ship can remain in quantum fold indefinitely, ready for deployment anywhere in the galaxy within minutes." SEO nodded as he tracked alien fleet movements across known space. "Every major military force is withdrawing to defensive positions around their homeworlds. They're too scared to leave their own star systems." Dr. Jin Soo Nam emerged from the Project Hammer control room, exhaustion clear on his face. The demonstration had proven that humanity's technological breakthrough was complete, but he knew this was only the beginning. "Status report on the other projects?" Nam asked his team. Dr. Yoonji Yoon consulted her displays. "Project Titan is ahead of schedule. We should have the stellar engineering systems online within 6 months. Project Genesis is showing promising results in timeline stabilization. Technology." Engineer Taemin Ko looked up from his calculations. "Sir, if the political situation stabilizes, we could begin offering technological uplift programs to allied species within a year. Nam smiled for the first time in months. Humanity hadn't just built weapons to defend themselves. They had developed technologies that could reshape the galaxy itself, lifting other species to levels of advancement that would ensure lasting peace. Captain Jun Seo-yu's message continued across the galaxy, his words carrying to every corner of known space. "The age of galactic warfare is over," he announced. "Humanity will not tolerate aggression against any species that chooses peaceful coexistence. We have moved beyond your understanding of what is possible. Choose wisdom over war. Choose cooperation over conquest." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate a new reality. Humanity, the species they had dismissed as primitive, had become something beyond their comprehension. The choice now was simple: adapt to the new order, or face the consequences of resistance. 4 minutes had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy convulsed in fear. Within hours of Captain Jun Seo-yu's transmission, every major alien civilization was in chaos. Government buildings on 100 worlds emptied as leaders fled to hidden bunkers. Military commanders who had spent lifetimes planning conquest now huddled in command centers, trying to understand how their greatest fleets had simply vanished. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the High Council met in emergency session. These proud beings had dominated their sector of space for over 1,000 years. But now, they trembled, like children afraid of the dark. "Admiral Kale's entire fleet," Chancellor Vorth said, his voice shaking. 200 vessels gone in seconds. Not destroyed, not scattered. Simply deleted from existence. The military advisor, General Quinn, studied the battle footage for the 100th time. "Our greatest scientists cannot explain the weapons we witnessed. The human ship seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It used time itself as a weapon." "What do we do?" asked the youngest council member. "Do we fight? Do we surrender? How does one negotiate with beings who can edit reality?" The silence that followed spoke volumes. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians had encountered something beyond their understanding. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On the insectoid hive's primary world, the Queen Mother's advisors brought news that their bioships had aged millions of years in minutes. The organic vessels that could adapt to any threat had been helpless against weapons that attacked time itself. "How do we evolve defenses against beings who control the flow of time?" the Queen Mother asked her science cast. The answer came back the same from every advisor. It was impossible. The Dominion's reptilian warriors, bred for conquest and violence, found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't fight. Their planet-killer weapons had been turned against them, their own gravitational weapons used to crush their ships into quantum singularities. Field Marshal Korath, one of the few Dominion commanders to survive the battle, reported to the High Command with words that would have been unthinkable days before. "Honored leaders," he said, his scarred face grim with defeat, "I recommend immediate surrender. We are facing a species that has transcended the normal laws of warfare. They don't just have better weapons. They have weapons that shouldn't be possible." The crystalline collective's remaining minds gathered in their quantum consciousness network, trying to process what they had experienced. Their phase shift technology, considered the most advanced in the galaxy, had been useless against humans who could exist in all dimensions at once. The primitive species has become something we cannot comprehend. The surviving mind speakers agreed. They have moved beyond our understanding of science itself. Earth Command received thousands of transmissions from alien governments within the first day. Admiral Bo-Ra-Lee sat in her command center, reading diplomatic messages that ranged from desperate pleas for mercy to offers of total surrender. "Admiral," reported Commander Hyun-Woo Park, "the hegemony of Altair is offering to dismantle their entire military fleet in exchange for a non-aggression pact. The Spiral Federation wants to surrender their territorial claims to the Outer Rim colonies." Admiral Lee nodded grimly. "What about the species that were neutral in this conflict?" "They're the ones requesting meetings," Park replied. "Everyone wants to be on humanity's good side now. The Merchant Guild is offering exclusive trade agreements. The Academic Consortium wants to exchange scientific knowledge. Communications specialist." So Young Choi looked up from her console. Ma'am, we're also receiving some concerning transmissions. A few radical groups are calling for suicide attacks against human colonies. They'd rather die fighting than submit to what they're calling human hegemony. Admiral Lee's expression hardened. Patch me through to the Hammer of Sol. Captain Yu needs to know about potential terrorist threats. In the quantum fold between dimensions, Captain Junseo Yu received the transmission aboard his impossible ship. The Hammer of Sol existed in a space that was everywhere and nowhere, able to appear anywhere in the galaxy within minutes if needed. Captain, reported First Officer Hai Jin Park, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the outer colonies. Several extremist groups are gathering ships for what appears to be a desperate attack. Navigator Yewan Kim studied the quantum fold projections. They're planning to target civilian populations, sir. The Crimson Alliance and the Death's Head Raiders are forming a combined fleet of about 3,000 ships. Captain Yu considered this information carefully. The demonstration in the asteroid field had been meant to prevent further bloodshed, but some beings would always choose violence over wisdom. Weapons Officer Lee, Yu said calmly, prepare for precision intervention. We need to stop these attacks without harming innocent civilians in the area. Dong-Hyun Lee activated targeting, systems that could track individual ships across light years of space. Ready for selective elimination, Captain. We can remove the hostile vessels while leaving civilian traffic untouched. Meanwhile, Dr. Jinsu Nam worked frantically in his secret laboratory on Haven Station. The success of Project Hammer had exceeded all expectations, but it was only the first phase of humanity's transformation. Dr. Yoon, Nam called to his colleague, what's the status on Project Genesis? Yoon Ji-yoon looked up from her quantum calculations. The timeline stabilization systems are showing promising results. We can now prevent temporal paradoxes on a stellar scale. If we can perfect the technology, we could offer it to other species as a diplomatic tool. Engineer Taemin Ko emerged from the exotic matter manufacturing bay with excitement in his eyes. Sir, Project Titan is ready for testing. The stellar engineering systems could reshape entire solar systems, create habitable worlds, or even move planets to safer orbits. Nam smiled at the possibilities. Humanity wasn't just developing weapons. They were creating technologies that could transform the galaxy into a paradise for all species willing to cooperate. What about Project Eden? Nam asked. Dr. Mi Young Han brought up holographic displays showing the most ambitious project yet. The consciousness transfer systems are functional. We could offer immortality to allied species, allowing them to transcend physical limitations entirely. The implications were staggering. Humanity could offer other species technologies that would end death, reshape reality, and transform barren worlds into gardens. But these gifts would only go to those who chose peace over war. Back in normal space, the first terrorist attacks began. The Crimson Alliance struck at a human research station, expecting easy victory against what they thought were primitive defenses. They never saw the Hammer of Sol coming. The impossible ship appeared in their midst like a ghost materializing from nowhere. Its weapons fired once, and the entire terrorist fleet simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not scattered, but edited out of reality as if they had never been there. The message was clear. Humanity would not tolerate attacks on innocent civilians, no matter who the targets were. Captain Dae-ho Kim watched from his position aboard the New Seoul as more extremist fleets were eliminated with surgical precision. The human warship appeared wherever violence threatened peaceful beings, removed the threats, and vanished back into quantum fold space. They're not just defending human colonies, Lieutenant So Young Choi observed. They're protecting anyone who chooses nonviolence. Dae-ho nodded slowly. Humanity isn't trying to conquer the galaxy, they're trying to civilize it. The realization spread across known space as more civilizations witnessed humanity's restrained use of overwhelming power. The humans could have destroyed entire worlds, enslaved whole species, or ruled the galaxy through terror. Instead, they offered protection to the peaceful and elimination only to those who chose violence. Admiral Bo-Ra Lee prepared humanity's formal response to the galaxy's diplomatic overtures. The message would be broadcast to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in known space. People of the galaxy, Admiral Lee's transmission began, humanity's position is simple. We will not tolerate aggression against any peaceful species. We will not allow the strong to prey upon the weak. We will not permit warfare to destroy the potential for galactic civilization. Her words carried the weight of absolute certainty, backed by weapons that could rewrite reality itself. To those who choose peace, we offer friendship, protection, and technologies that will transform your worlds into paradises. To those who choose war, we offer one opportunity to reconsider. To those who attack innocent civilians, we offer nothing but swift and absolute elimination. The transmission ended with coordinates for diplomatic contact and detailed instructions for requesting humanity's protection. The message was clear. The galaxy could choose cooperation and prosperity, or it could choose extinction. Most species chose wisely. The age of human dominance had begun, but it was dominance wielded with wisdom rather than cruelty. The galaxy would learn to thrive under humanity's protection, or it would learn that resistance to the new order was not just futile, but impossible. The message had been sent. Now came the responses that would shape the future of galactic civilization. 3 months after the 4-minute war that changed everything, the galaxy had settled into a new reality. The old order of constant conflict and territorial expansion was gone, replaced by something unprecedented in galactic history. Genuine peace. Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, but the new soul was no longer alone in space. Around him flew a diplomatic convoy that would have been impossible just months before. Zephyrian cruisers escorted human vessels. Hive bioships provided organic shielding for the fleet. Even a few surviving collective phase ships participated in the mission. "Captain," reported Lieutenant So Young Choi, "we're receiving clearance from the Altarian defense grid. They're actually thanking us for coming." Daeho smiled at the irony. The same species that had tried to exterminate humanity were now begging for human protection against pirates and raiders. The galaxy had learned that humanity's power came with responsibility, and that responsibility included protecting anyone who chose peaceful coexistence. "Set course for the orbital stations," Daeho ordered. "Let's go save some of our former enemies." The mission was typical of the new galactic order. Refugee fleets from the former war. Zones needed protection while they established new colonies. Pirate groups still attacked civilian transports in remote systems. Isolated worlds requested human technology to rebuild after decades of warfare. Admiral Ga Young Song commanded the new Galactic Peace Corps from her flagship, the redesigned battlecruiser Incheon. Her fleet included vessels from dozens of species, all working together under human leadership to maintain stability across known space. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Dongmin Yu, "we're tracking 17 different species in this convoy. 6 months ago, half of them were trying to kill the other half." Song nodded as she watched the mixed fleet navigate through what had once been a war zone. Fear makes excellent motivation for cooperation. Nobody wants to be the next species that finds out what human weapons can really do. Her communications officer, Commander Junho Bei, brought new reports from across the galaxy. "Ma'am, the reconstruction efforts in the hegemony sectors are ahead of schedule. Human engineering teams have restored 3 solar systems that were damaged in the old territorial wars. The work was remarkable. Human technology didn't just defend against aggression. It could repair damaged worlds, restore dead star systems, and transform barren planets into garden worlds capable of supporting billions of beings." In the secret laboratories of Haven Station, Dr. Jin-Soo Nam and his team worked on projects that would have seemed like magic to previous generations. Project Titan had successfully moved an entire planet to a more stable orbit, saving a civilization from their dying star. Project Genesis was being used to stabilize timeline fractures left over from ancient wars. "Dr. Yoon," Nam called to his colleague, "what's the status on the consciousness transfer requests?" Yoon Ji-yoon consulted her quantum displays. "We have applications from 47 species requesting immortality technology. The screening process is going well. All applicants have demonstrated at least 50 years of peaceful behavior." Engineer Taemin Ko looked up from his stellar engineering controls. "Sir, the Andromedan refugees have requested terraforming assistance for their new homeworld. Their sun went supernova during the war, but we can give them something better than they lost." Dr. Mi Young-han brought up holographic displays showing the most ambitious project yet. The Universal Translation Matrix is ready for galaxy-wide deployment. Once activated, every sentient being will be able to communicate with every other sentient being instantly, regardless of species or language barriers. Nam smiled at the implications. Perfect communication would eliminate the misunderstandings that had fueled countless wars. Species that had fought for millennia over trivial disputes would finally be able to understand each other clearly. But the greatest change was visible in the former war zones themselves. Captain Jun Seo-yu and the Hammer of Soul had become legend throughout the galaxy. The impossible ship appeared wherever peace was threatened, its mere presence enough to stop conflicts before they could begin. "Captain," reported First Officer Haya Jin Park from the Quantum Fold Bridge, "we're receiving a distress call from the Outer Rim territories. A group of war refugees is being attacked by slavers." Navigator Yewon Kim plotted the dimensional coordinates instantly. "We can be there in 37 seconds, sir." "Make it 20, Yu ordered calmly. The Hammer of Soul materialized in normal space, just as the slaver fleet opened fire on defenseless refugee ships. The attackers had exactly enough time to realize what they were facing before their vessels were edited out of existence. Weapons Officer Dong-Hyun Lee confirmed the elimination. "Threat neutralized, Captain. The refugees are safe." Communications Officer Su-Bin Cho received grateful transmissions from the saved civilians. "Sir, they're asking if we need anything in return for the rescue." Captain Yu's answer was always the same. "Tell them to live peacefully and help others when they can. That's payment enough." The refugee ships limped toward the nearest human-protected system, where they would receive medical care, temporary housing, and assistance in finding new homes. It was a scene that played out dozens of times each day across the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Bo-Ra Lee managed the complex task of governing a galaxy that suddenly looked to humanity for leadership. Her command center had become the unofficial capital of galactic civilization, receiving diplomatic missions from hundreds of species. "Admiral," reported Commander Hyun-Woo Park, "the Economic Council is requesting human arbitration in the trade dispute between the Spiral Federation and the Merchant Guild. The scientific consortium wants our help with a research project that could eliminate disease across 17 species," added communications specialist So-Young Choi. "And the Cultural Exchange Program has received applications from over 300 worlds wanting to participate in artistic and educational exchanges," finished Intelligence Officer Woo Jin Seo. Admiral Lee reviewed the requests with amazement. Humanity had become the galaxy's teacher, protector, and arbiter all at once. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now competed for their approval and assistance. But the most remarkable changes were happening on worlds that had known nothing but war for generations. Children born after the 4-Minute War grew up learning that cooperation was stronger than conflict, that science could solve any problem, and that the universe was vast enough for everyone to thrive. On the former battle world of Kepler-7, young beings from 6 different species played together in schools built with human technology. They learned mathematics from Zephyrian teachers, biology from hive specialists, and philosophy from collective mentors. But most importantly, they learned that differences between species were strengths rather than causes for war. Dr. Jin-Soo Nam visited one of these schools during a routine inspection tour. He watched children who would have been deadly enemies under the old system working together on projects that would benefit their entire world. "Dr. Nam," asked a young Zephyrian student, "is it true that our parents used to fight wars against each other?" Nam knelt down to the child's level. "Yes, but that was before we learned to understand each other. Now we know that working together makes everyone stronger." The child nodded seriously. "My hive friend says her grandmother remembers when their bioships attacked Zephyrian colonies, but now they're helping build the new orbital farms together." These conversations happened throughout the galaxy. A generation was growing up that would never know the constant warfare that had defined galactic civilization for millennia. They would know only cooperation, shared knowledge, and the security that came from human protection. Captain Dae-ho Kim completed his diplomatic mission and prepared to return to Earth with news of another successful alliance. As the new Soul entered hyperspace, he reflected on how much had changed since that terrible day when the greatest fleet in galactic history had assembled to destroy humanity. "Lieutenant Choi," he said to his communications officer, Transmit our mission report to Earth Command. Another successful integration of former hostile species into the galactic community. Aye, sir, So Young replied. Should I also include the request from the Altarian government for human assistance in rebuilding their military academies? Dai-Ho smiled. Former enemies asking us to help them train their officers in peacekeeping rather than warfare. Yes, include that. Admiral Lee will want to know that the transformation is complete. The galaxy had chosen wisdom over war, cooperation over conquest, and hope over fear. Under humanity's protection and guidance, civilizations that had fought for thousands of years were learning to build instead of destroy. The age of human dominance was not an age of oppression or conquest. It was an age of teaching, healing, and growth. The species that had once tried to exterminate humanity were now humanity's closest allies, partners in building a future that would benefit everyone. Captain Jun Seo-Yu and the Hammer of Sol continued their eternal patrol, watching over a galaxy finally at peace. The impossible ship remained hidden in quantum-fold space, ready to appear wherever violence threatened the new order. But increasingly, their interventions were no longer needed. The galaxy had learned the lesson that 4 minutes of terror had.